7 Vitamin B12 Deficiency Symptoms. Vitamin B12, also known as cobalamin, is a water-soluble vitamin that is primarily involved in the proper functioning of the nervous system. One thing you should know is that vitamin B12 and folate, vitamin B9, are closely related. Each depends on the other for activation. Without sufficient B12, nerves become damaged, and if the deficiency is not treated, the nervous system can become permanently compromised, leading to paralysis and general malfunctioning of nerves and muscles. Also, if vitamin B12 is not available, then folate, which is responsible for making red blood cells, will be unable to do its blood-building work, and thus anemia can result as a result of both vitamin B12 or folate. Now, vitamin B12 is naturally present in foods such as fish, eggs, poultry, dairy products such as milk, cheese, and yogurt, and fortified breakfast cereals. So, vegetarians or vegans need to make sure that they are stocking up on fortified foods that contain vitamin B12 so that they do not get vitamin B12 deficiency. Now, with vitamin B12, another thing to keep in mind here is that its absorption in the body requires what is known as an intrinsic factor, a compound made by the stomach using special information found in a person's genes. In the stomach acid, HCl, hydrochloric acid, will help to free the vitamin B12 from food so that it can combine with the intrinsic factor and then get absorbed further down to the small intestine. Sometimes the genes which code or give instruction for the intrinsic factor may be defected, and in such cases, vitamin B12 is not properly absorbed in the body, which could lead to a deficiency. So, a deficiency of vitamin B12 could either result from a lack of the intrinsic factor or a lack in diets of animal sources of food such as vegetarian diets or vegan diets. Now that we know a little about the vitamin, let's take a look at the deficiency symptoms of vitamin B12. Number 1. Anemia. If the gene which gives the information for making the intrinsic factor is defective, then there will be a lack of intrinsic factor and the absorption of vitamin B12 will be poor irrespective of how much B12 foods a person is consuming. Then anemia can result, and this type of anemia is called pernicious anemia. Pernicious anemia means that there is a decrease in the number of red blood cells when the intestines cannot absorb B12 properly because of the lack of the intrinsic factor. Also, because of the lack of either vitamin B12 or folate, megaloblastic anemia can also result. In megaloblastic anemia, the red blood cells are unusually large and have an abnormal shape compared to normal red blood cells, and these can only be determined by lab tests. Number 2. Glossitis. Glossitis means inflammation of the tongue. The tongue can appear as sore or beefy red in color, and it can also have linear or patchy red lesions. Glossitis can be painful and itchy, and with a swollen tongue, your taste buds can stop working properly such that you lose your sense of taste. Number 3. Fatigue and weakness. Fatigue and weakness are also signs of vitamin B12 deficiency. This is because vitamin B12 is necessary for the production of new red blood cells, and thus, without enough B12, the body cannot make new red blood cells. And since red blood cells are responsible for delivering oxygen to all your cells, tissues, and organs, without enough red blood cells, your cells, tissues, and organs do not get enough oxygen, and this can result in fatigue and weakness. Number 4. Nerve damage. In the nervous system, vitamin B12 helps to produce what is known as myelin sheath, which protects the nerves and helps them to transmit sensations. So, if there is a lack of vitamin B12 in the body, then the production of myelin sheath will be reduced, making the nerves more prone to damage. Number 5. Loss of reflexes. As we saw earlier, vitamin B12 is very important for the proper functioning of the nervous system. Without enough vitamin B12, the nerves are more prone to damage, and if the deficiency is not treated, then it could also lead to loss of reflexes such as that of the knee-jerk reflex, which is the sudden kicking movement on the lower leg when there is a tap on the patellar tendon, which lies just below the kneecap, or even permanent nerve damage. Number 6. Depression. Vitamin B12 plays a role in producing brain chemicals that affect your mood and other brain functions. Thus, a lack of vitamin B12 can result in psychological problems such as depression and even irritability and poor mood. Number 7. Hyperpigmentation. Sometimes hyperpigmentation can also result because of the lack of vitamin B12. This hyperpigmentation, however, occurs at the back of the hands and at the backs of the feet, somewhat over the knuckles. Hyperpigmentation associated with vitamin B12 can also affect the nails, causing them to darken, called melanonychia. A lack of vitamin B12 can also cause premature graying of the hair. The symptoms discussed are some of the deficiency symptoms of vitamin B12. But how is the deficiency of B12 diagnosed? Initial tests can include testing for CBC, a complete blood count, and serum B12 levels. If indeed a person lacks vitamin B12, then the CBC test would show anemia, while with the serum B12 test, a serum B12 level above 300 pg/ml or picograms per milliliter is considered normal, and if it is less than 300 picograms per milliliter, then you might not have enough B12. To treat vitamin B12 deficiency, people are given B12 injections to bypass the defective absorption system when the intrinsic factor is lacking, or oral supplementations are also used. Also, since vitamin B12 deficiency may be caused by either a lack of the vitamin in the diet or a lack of the intrinsic factor necessary to absorb the vitamin, only making dietary changes to increase the uptake of vitamin B12 may not correct the deficiency, and thus, if you experience the deficiency symptoms of vitamin B12, you should go see a doctor to know the true cause of the deficiency. In this way, you are able to take the correct measures to correct the deficiency for vitamin B12. Until next time, take care.